So as we go through this, just remember, big opportunity. You can reopen your company than where you were when you closed it. You can take it in a very different direction. You can get rid of a lot of the stuff that you don't want, and I'll be addressing that in a little bit. So first thing that I want to get into here is enough of the negativity. Right now, we need to inspire hope. We need to inspire dreams, courage, and not beat it down and crush it. There have been a number of articles, posts that I've seen online and on Facebook that, I'm sorry, just pisses me off. And I say that because when individuals say this industry, it's had its moment and you can't make a living, or, you work at it for X number of years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever. And what do you reach a crisis like this? It's not right, and it's not fair for anyone to beat down the dreams of people who are very, very passionate and committed to this industry, especially at a time when we're very vulnerable because of we're getting pounded with bad news and body counts and more confirmed cases and just businesses that aren't going to make it and that are already shut down. Last thing that we need are for owners and employees, service providers, stylists, estheticians, nail techs, you name it, to feel that they made a bad choice to come into this industry, because you didn't. This has always been a great industry. It's been crazy industry. It has not been without its problems, but again, we've shut it down and we have an opportunity to restart our industry in a better way. So if you see any of these articles come across your desktop or your phone, and it's talking about why this industry is not a great place anymore, and go find a job outside somewhere, and good luck with that today, but go find a job somewhere else, and you can't build a salon, you can't, it just, enough is enough. Let's get focused on what do we have to do to reopen and have a great industry. We can make it better. A couple of points I want to bring up. There's three. The first is many owners, many salon spa owners were prepared for this. It's not like anybody knew that this was coming, but they were prepared. They were practicing cash flow, debt elimination, and building cash reserves. And that thinking versus needing this week's revenue to pay last week's payroll. And it's something that we've seen with salons and spas for so many years. I mean, I'm over 26 years owning strategies. I've been in this industry since 1970, and that story hasn't changed. Where too many owners need this week's revenue to meet last week's payroll. And that is self-inflicted wounds. It does not have to be that way. Many were prepared. Many salon spas had cash reserves that, yes, it's scary. Yes, they're stressed about what's happening with the COVID-19 crisis right now, but at least they don't have to worry about cash. They have enough to get through this, at least for a bit. And that's without the funding and all the other stuff that's happening out there. The other thing I want to bring up is there will be a purging. I've seen this a number of times in my working life, where if there's a downturn, the economy takes a nosedive, there will be a purging. Even with, and this is a key point here, even with years in a booming economy, too many salons and spas were living on the financial edge. And then this thing comes along, you got to shut your business down, cash stopped instantly, and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, what am I going to do? But if that's describing where your company was at the point that everyone had to close down uh, for the pandemic, then you set yourself up for that. And I'm not beating anyone up. I'm just stating what is true. If you were not financially savvy enough, if you weren't managing, building, tracking, predicting cash flow, managing your expenses, managing debt, getting your payroll under control, if you just weren't doing the work that it takes to be a successful and profitable company, then you walked into this very unprepared. So there will be a purging, and my heart breaks for anyone, whether it's in our industry. We know restaurants around here that just they just don't know what's going to happen. So many businesses will not be able to make it through this, but those that will were prepared in some way, financially, structurally, culturally. They were prepared. So there will be a purging. We will lose salons. It is unstoppable and inevitable, but there is an opportunity to build it better. There's an opportunity to rethink what we can do while the companies, while your businesses are closed right now, to prepare to reopen, but reopen with new thinking, fresh thinking, more aggressive thinking. And I use the word squander, this one word, squander. Do not squander this rare opportunity. We've talked to so many owners about where their company is at. And what we try and do from a coaching standpoint is get owners to think bigger, to think about what their business can be and get past the gloom and doom and, oh my God, I don't know if we're going to have enough money. You know, is the SBA disaster loan going to be $5 or 15,000 or whatever we're hearing about that? Will you get the paycheck protection program financing? You know, everyone's getting so stuck on those stress points that you got to step back and take time to use the time that we have between now and when we get to open again to recreate your company. Don't squander the opportunity. Seize the moment. Start building a better future today. So this is Leslie's cue to come back on, and I want Leslie to share her story of preparedness and taking care of her team. So Leslie,
I'm here.
there you are. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take us way back to the last major crisis that we all went through.
Yeah, so I wanted to start by telling everybody the last major crisis that we went through was 9/11, and we're in Texas. So I get that there were other, states that were very affected by this, but we were affected by it as well. And we didn't know if we should shut down, do something else. I mean, I honestly had started interviewing for other jobs at the time. I mean, it was just a crazy time. But what me and my mom decided to do at that time, my mom is Judy, and we literally went to incubator in Atlanta, Georgia, a month after September 11th, because it was like, we've got to make this work. We still have employees with us that were with us at that time. But we knew we had to do something because what we were doing wasn't working. And we had toyed around with Neil because I used to work for another company that had brought him in as a guest speaker. And, he came into the salon, we did the beautiful cash flow plan. It looked great. But,
People love to toy around with me, you know?
yeah, but,
Yeah.
but we were too busy to do it. And so, it was just this compounding effect of not working what you really needed to work on. And it was working on the day-to-day stuff. So anyways, we go to incubator after the 1 month after 9/11. If anyone knows me, I'm scared of flying. So you can only imagine that flight to Atlanta. after 9/11. That was crazy. But then we started to work the systems, and we have done everything strategy since then. That was 2001. And even I remember like the recession of 08, 09, we didn't feel it. I know a lot of other salons did. We didn't. And I feel that it's because our systems were so strong. And, you know, since all of this, I mean, we've worked the systems, we've built the culture, we're communicating with staff, we're doing daily, you know, huddles, we're the scoreboards are there's so many scoreboards, it's almost overwhelming, you know, and this is my beautiful team that is still gonna this makes me teary-eyed, I'm sorry. But, you know, it's just, you fast forward to a few weeks ago and you have to lay everyone off. And it's the most devastating day of your life. And we did. We had cash reserve. Damn it, Neil. We had cash reserves. We knew we could survive several months, even with payroll. But it's a scary time. And so we laid everybody off. And, you know, and I even got like, I mean, these people making $100,000 a year, they're getting $521 a week. They haven't seen that $600 check that's supposed to be coming. And then someone making $10 an hour, I mean, they're making like $296 a week. So it's just, it's been, for me, devastating. And it's why we decided to apply for the Payroll Protection Act, or Payroll Protection Plan, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm checking my email literally every 30 seconds. We finished it on Monday. We applied on Friday, and things changed within like 24 hours, and there were other forms to submit and whatever. Anyways, we got that done Monday. I know quite a few people who have received the funds. But for me, you have to take care of the people who have taken care of you. And when you've got people who have worked for you for 10, 15, 20 years, and these are these girls in this picture right here, you have to take care of them. And you cannot be selfish in this time. You know, if we all go down, we all go down. But you got to do what you got to do. And, you know, I had one girl call me. I called all my, I called everyone last week, and just to check in and see how everyone was. And there were a couple of things important. One, the most important thing that I learned, which I didn't even know was important, was that they needed to hear from me that we are going to reopen. And we are going to reopen 100%, 200%. We're going to reopen, you know. But then I had one girl who, because she was laid off, literally she moves out Thursday, tomorrow, into her new house, and they called her and said she signed for her mortgage because she'd been laid off. And I was like, that's not going to happen. And so I rehired her back full time, because there's no reason for anyone to not get what they've worked so hard for. And that's the biggest reason we're team-based pay. It's just you collectively support each other. They have supported us, we have supported them, and this is what we do. And just the amount of gratitude I have for my team right now is bigger than life itself. You know, the other thing, you know, and I think there might be questions, I can't see the chat, but there might be questions on, you know, why didn't you spend your cash on paying everybody? You know, it's because you can't run out of cash. You've got to keep cash in the bank. Could we have kept them on for a couple of months? Yes. But do we, you know, let's do unemployment. Let's file for this payroll protection loan. Let's see if we get it. If we don't get it, we're going to go from there. And so, I don't know, did I cover anything there? I got really emotional. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
really didn't think I was going to.
really? um, when I talked about, you've already talked to your banker about the Paycheck Protection Program. Um, your banker said that's coming. There'll be no problem with you getting it. We've seen so many or heard so many owners wrestle over, well, geez, if you get the money, what do you bring them back? I mean, how can I bring them back? They can't work. We have to stay closed. Would you just share what your plan is?
Yeah. So, and if any of my staff is on this, hi, here's the plan. um,
Announcement.
Announcement today. No, but here is my plan. There are so many things that we have always said that we don't have enough time to work on. And well, I can't do that because I'm so busy behind the chair and even front desk, I can't do this because of da, 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 and I'm like, guess what, guys, we just got allocated time to work on so much stuff. And so my plan is, once I'm able to rehire everyone back, is we're going to get the 2020 playbook. It is going to be so down pat. Like I won't even have to decide what kind of cheese to get for the birthday party, or you know what I mean? We're going to do open houses, our birthday, our reopening, client incentive, staff incentive, like everything that you need to get through the rest of the year. We're going to get it down, because why not? And let's and I'm not asking them to work 40 hours a week. I'm saying maybe a couple hours a week we do some Zoom meetings, or in their little teams they do their own thing. But yeah, let's put them back to work. But there's no reason that anyone should hold on to this money. If you don't pay it back in 8 weeks, you have to pay the loan back. I mean, so that's just absurd. No one wants to go into debt. And B, take care of your staff. They are struggling right now, and if
So
someone's making
75% of the loan amount within 8 weeks needs to be used for payroll to be 100% forgiven. And you're going to make sure that happens. And I think that says a lot about you and your company.
anyways, that's where we are. Thanks.
All right. Michael, do we have comments, questions on Leslie?
Yeah, let me jump in here. Yeah, we've got some good, again, just some good, just kind of support for the fact that, yeah, we absolutely just have to start taking care of our teams. No, we're actually, the question that did come up, and Leslie already answered it. It's like, well, wait a second, when you're talking about you've got to protect your cash, to make sure there's a future to return to. But now, again, how we want to utilize some of the things that that are out there. And how you plan. So you answered, like I said, so far, like, so you've hit all you've anticipated any of the questions that I'm seeing through the chat. So, but again, the comments are basically, and I would just kind of add to, kind of bringing what I'm seeing happening with the chat, and kind of the overall vibe of it is the fact that we've been talking about this now. If you've been really keeping up with us through Facebook and things, we've had a couple of videos. A great one that Steve Swanson and his wife Andrea did about interacting with your team. We did some pieces. I did one myself on, again, team communication, things like that. Right now is the time to strengthen this communication piece and getting people engaged and not losing that. We've talked a lot about that, and I love how Leslie is bringing that again back to the forefront as an overall theme here. Is don't let up on that client communication, or excuse me, on that team communication piece. It is so powerful. And then how she also advanced the thought, and again, this is for all of us, how she also advanced the thinking, and this is a lot of what Neil is, started out discussing as well, which got a lot of love, is now is the time to start to say, okay, what are our next steps in progressing and moving forward, and how we can utilize this time that we have to act as, in some cases, a reset, look at what we are doing with our business and how we can strengthen and grow that. So that's kind of the general vibe that's going on. No real other specific questions, but when they do come up, I'll definitely bring them forward. But good stuff. I don't know, Neil, if you're going to take back over, or Leslie, whoever's got it.
Yeah, I think, the reason I asked Leslie to come on and just share her story, it's to go back to that preparedness piece and being able to take care of your team. There is nothing wrong. I'm not telling all owners that if you get a paycheck protection program loan that you shouldn't hold on to that money and save it to fund payroll when you open, that you should start paying them now. That's all based on you and your company and what you feel that you need to do. And also what your financial situation is. When Leslie and I first started talking, when this whole crisis began, she said she doesn't need a loan. They're in good shape. So that's the preparedness piece. And the emphasis here is, if where Leslie is with gold waves, if that's someplace you have not been yet to that level of preparedness with a significant cash flow reserve, then I'm hoping this inspires you to say it is possible. It's possible in the salon spa industry to do this. So,
And I will
yep,
say one
go.
more thing on that, if I can. You know, I did not do this single-handedly, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I did, because this was my mother, this was my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law, she strategies, and Dave, I keep saying this, and Dave Ramsey the shit out of our business. We have no credit card debt. We have a mortgage, but it is, we're not paying that, 10, 15, 20, $30,000 a month. So that's another reason we are in really good shape. We also own our building. So there's so many other things to think about too, which I know is not like what strategies teaches, but it's put us in a very good position to, if we have to shut down for several months, we're gonna be fine. So
Thank you, my friend.
thank you, Neil.
And you got me teared up too. So, oh, but I'm always warned not to cry. All right, let's start mapping out the future. I've got 11 questions that I want you to answer. We will make sure all of you get the 11 questions after we wrap up. First question, and I think this is the one I started putting out there first when this crisis began, is what don't you want back in your business when you reopen? And what I want you to think about are the attitudes, the coming to work late, the I only want to work this schedule, so I'm going to come in late, I'm going to leave early. I always use the term, are you building columns on your appointment book? Meaning, you're growing individual request rates, and then you're always worried about, oh my God, what happens if they leave? Where are the clients going to go? There are behaviors, and there are lack of systems. There are certain practices that you don't need to bring back into your company when you reopen. So take some time now. You build your list of all the things you do not want to see back in your company when you reopen. And then talk to your team about it. Get on a Zoom meeting and talk to your team about this particular question and see what they say. And let's start building consensus in the team to begin understanding that A, you have a plan. B, you want to build a better future. C, we can do this. So that big question number one is, what don't you want to bring back? And let's leave it in the past. We don't need to have it, in our companies today. Question number two is, what do you want your culture to look and feel like? There are many, many companies out there, salon spas, med spas, you name it. Team-based pay, not team-based pay, that have amazing cultures. And culture, Bruce Horrigan, who's president of strategies, came up with a line a couple of years ago, and he said, culture reflects leadership. And if you were able to create the culture you want, it says something about how you lead and your spirit and your leadership heart. It says all of that. If your culture has anything in it that you don't like, when I hear, people can listen to what Leslie is saying and say, how do you get your people to do that? How are you going to get them to work on stuff while they're home and we're close? How do you get them to show up on? How do you get them to be at huddle on time? How do you get them in the same place so we can do a huddle on time? Every time I hear an owner say, how do you get them to do that? It comes right back and smacks them in the head to say, there's something with your leadership that isn't playing the game to the level that you have to create the culture that you want. So what do you want your culture to look like? Do you want everybody pulling and pushing in the same direction to build a company for all of you? Or do you want a culture where, hey, I love the company I work for, love my boss, love my teammates, but it's all about my clients. And it's all about how many clients are asking for me and how many people I have on the waiting list. What don't you want back in your culture? What do you want your culture to look and feel like when you reopen again and a year down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road? What do you want it to look like? It's a great question I love to ask owners. It's like, well, if your business, like if everything that you're doing right now and everything that's happening in your financial situation, good, bad, or indifferent, your culture, good, bad, or indifferent, operational procedures and systems and structures, do you want 10 more years of this, 5 more years of it, meaning nothing is going to change? Like if your commissions were too high, if your payroll was too high, why open your company again when you can finally reopen with the same stuff that got you into a not good place to begin with? So what do you want that culture to look and feel like?
Neil,
Yes.
I just want to interject something really quick. So even those of us that have amazing cultures and have worked on this for years, I've still got to go back and go, okay, what would I do different? And at this point in time, we have done so much delegation, empowerment, communication that it takes the whole team to make a freaking decision. And so, we're working on a decision now that we've been working on for 9 months, and it still is not complete. And so, even if you've got those great cultures, this is really a time to look at where you are and what things need to change, even in an amazing company. So I just wanted to interject there because I got a whole lot to work on myself.
Well, I was going to say I wanted to jump in on that as well, Leslie, with what you're saying. I'm glad you spoke up because I was going to comment on this idea of culture. Being so strong is the idea of, and Neil referenced his Bruce's statement, culture reflects leadership. When we talk about culture, it's the overall definition that we give around it is just, culture is the collective behavior of the company. And when you start to look and you start to say, and the other thing we'll say, and this ties in with Bruce's statement, which is culture begins with leadership. Culture begins with that leader. And, if you had to have any question, and so I'm kind of glad it's kind of funny that Leslie, you chimed back in, because I was going to give you a big, and still will give you a huge pat on the back with the idea of, if you had any doubt about why the culture is strong within that company, you saw the emotion, you saw the intent, you saw the heart of what Leslie was sharing. Now, as Leslie's even kind of said, listen, doesn't mean we get it right all the time. Doesn't mean that we're perfect all the time as leaders. Absolutely not. But people understand the heart. People understand what leadership is trying to do, and it's just so relatable. And so I just kind of wanted to draw that in, you know, because everything you were saying, Neil, is so on point with this idea of, I want my culture to look different than where it is. I want to build a stronger culture. And, you know, again, that starts with what's the overall collective behavior of the company. And again, that starts with us as leaders and just feeling that passion. And it doesn't mean we're perfect by any stretch. We are all flawed people, and we will continue to be. But you can
Hey, wait a
still, it's
minute. You're on
showing
my
that
payroll.
heart.
You're flawed.
Well, on occasion, I've been known to have one or two. I'm not saying a lot. I'm just saying one or two. But yes, we are absolutely so. But I love you chiming back in, Leslie, and I love the what you're talking about here. It's powerful stuff. So
well, it's just,
anyway,
and it's important. And like to what Neil's, you know, first one or two slides, I mean, it really made me think. And I think, what did I, you know, this is the biggest time in our life to reinvent ourselves. And so what is that going to look like? We might have 2 weeks, we might have 3 weeks, we might have 2 months, but get to work on that. Like my biggest job recently was getting the loan application in. Now my biggest job is, how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we reopen? What are we going to do? And how do we move forward from here? And there's so many moving parts, so many pieces to think about. So even if you think that your company's perfect, take a look at yourself.
You and I will do a coaching call on how to create small decision-making teams. So you can get that one thing you've been working on for 9 months. What is it? What color? So what color is black?
Right. That's the biggest question we've been working on. Anyways, move on.
All right. Okay. Question number 3, how does your compensation system need to change to control payroll costs and reward the right behavior? For all of you who know strategies and you've known me, you know we believe in and train and coach on a system called team-based pay. And I'm not selling it to anybody. I'm saying if your compensation system has not created, you know, what gets rewarded gets repeated, and that goes for behavior. If it hasn't created the culture, the systems, the profitability, the sustainability that you want in your company, what do you need to change? You know, if you've been paying 45, 50, 55, 60%, sliding scales, product cost deductions, all the stuff that you're the only one that can actually figure out what they made. Sorry, I can't help but do that. You know, but if it hasn't really worked in the past, don't reopen with it. Look at something different. Make the changes. You know, look at our team-based pay program. Don't be afraid of it. If you've never researched it, you don't know about it. But look at creating something that will take your business forward. This is the time to get those changes to take place. Number 4 is, what strategies will make your brand the most recognizable and desirable in your marketplace? Listen, I said before, there is going to be a downsizing of the industry. There will be places that close, salons, spas, rental places, suites, you know, everything is going to get rewired and reworked. How will you show up when it's time to reopen and make your brand the most incredible, recognizable brand in your marketplace, that you become the go-to company in what you say and how you communicate and how your people look and how people are addressed and the time and the caring and all that stuff? How do you create all of that? This is the time to figure all that stuff out. Get your brand down. Number 5 is, what new systems / training does your team need to blow every client's mind with attention to detail and consistency? Man, if there was ever one area of our industry that has been more frustrating and more intolerable toleration is the term that I use. It's consistency. Why is it 2 or 3 of your employees can follow a system and others don't? Why is it some clients go to checkout with a product recommendation for home use and a pre-book date, but others go to checkout with, here's the bill? How come some first-time clients are getting a first-time client consultation in the way it's been designed by the company and others are not? Consistency. When you go to a fine hotel, how you're greeted, how you're taken care of. A fine restaurant, how you're greeted, how you're taken care of, how they'll explain more and give you more detail. It's the experience, but it's also that personal service. How can we create consistency in our companies now? And that's going to take a training program. It's going to take systems. They have to be designed, and you have to have the leadership to get these systems in and across the finish line. That is the work of leadership. So what systems and training do you need to blow your clients' minds because of your ability to be consistent? What financial skills and systems do you need to contain expenses, ensure profit, and build cash reserves? Are you real, as a coaching company, we've been teaching cash flow planning since day one at Strategies. And in a coaching relationship between a strategies coach and a coaching client, the one thing that we work so hard at is getting the owner to lock into the disciplines of cash flow planning, projecting revenue, budgeting expenses, and living the budget. That is a skill. It takes some work. Anyone who goes, but I'm not good with numbers, get over it. You gotta figure it out. There's plenty of help out there for you to understand it. But what financial skills and systems do you need? So should, God forbid, there be another crisis like what we're going through now, you will be in better shape going into it for yourself, for your company, for your employees, for your customers. Financial skills. You can't not play that game. And I have to throw this one out there. What financial practices do you need to fix? A couple of good ones that our industry is known for. Paying cash under the table. Taking cash out of the business owners. Your company checkbook is not your personal bank account. It's your company's. Not reporting any or all tip income. What about, and it's a good place to put it in here, what about, oh, well, they're all 1099s. My employees are all they're not your employees. They're independent contractors, and you can't have 1099s in your company. It is not legal. If they do the work of the business, if you own a hair salon and have a stylist that's 1099, they're doing the same work as your business. You are going to get hammered by IRS. It is guaranteed that if any scrutiny comes along from IRS on your company, they're going to nail you on that. Tip income. I don't want to know about their tips. Tips are their problem. It's not, no, it is your problem. All tips are income earned at work. They have to be reported. So clean these financial practices. Here's a point. There are employees, service providers, stylists, whatever, that are going on unemployment right now, making better unemployment because all of their tip income was reported, versus someone that may have been making the same total income but didn't report their tips, and they're going to get lower unemployment checks because, why? Because you didn't want to pay taxes on something? I mean, the cash is like funny money. Let's clean this nonsense up. Our industry needs to be truly professional and move above and beyond all this. That's just nonsense already. Do you have a comprehensive internal skill certification program? When I mentioned before about consistency, how many stylists do you have that take an hour to do a 45-minute service, or take an hour and a half to do a 45-minute service or an hour service? You charge by time, and if it takes more time for an employee to do a service that's priced at a certain price point, you lost money. The numbers show that. So what skill certification do you have in place to do technical training, customer service training, to do, you know, financial literacy so they can understand how does a salon spa make money? Oh, I don't want to teach them. I've heard this before. I don't want to teach them because if they learn how to run a business, they're going to go open their own. You know what? Really teach them how to run a salon and what the realities are of running a salon. They're not going to want to open a salon. So what type of internal skill certification program do you need? And it's not something that can take a year. You know, you've got to get people into your company and get them up to speed on what the expectations are for time standards, for skill development, for customer relations, for consultations, product recommendations, pre-book, productivity rate, all that stuff. You've got to train hard and fast when an employee comes in. And you know, if you've been getting your head out a little further out into reopening, that there are going to be people looking for work because the salon they worked at doesn't exist anymore. And you don't want to hire in the wrong behavior. You want to hire in the talent, and you want to use your internal skill certification program to shape the behavior to fit what you're building, what your dream is, what your goal is, what your expectations are. Got to have internal training. Number 9, what critical numbers have you been battling? What systems, training, accountability is needed to move them in the right direction? I've seen companies take a pre-book rate of 30 some odd percent and drive it to 65, 70% or higher in a matter of a week, because they put in a system and the leader locks onto it and inspires their people, coaches their people to achieve that number. Follow the system. The critical numbers just measure systems and behavior. So what's your pre-book rate? What's your productivity rate? And if you've been running, you know, prior to the shutdown, if you've been running at 60, 65%, 70% productivity, or lower than 60, you've been running inefficiently. You have more hours for sale than you have business, and everybody's paying the price. You have people sitting around for 30%, 40%, 50% of their time on payroll going, I got nothing to do. It's because you have too many people. We've seen enough that we know this. You know, so productivity rates, first-time retention rates, existing client retention rates, pre-book rate, percentage of clients going to checkout with a retail recommendation and a pre-book. All of these critical numbers, payroll as a percent of total revenue, net profit, you know, all of these critical numbers take systems, training, accountability. They take leadership. What do you need to do to move them in the right direction? Let's lock on and get our head in the game and create a company that you can be proud of, and that I'd rather stress over how much you have on your plate to do, but you can finish it, than stressing over how you're going to meet payroll. Number 10, what employee benefits do you need to consider adding in the future? Not right when you open, but what do you need to consider adding? Employees, if employees and especially independent contractors, booth renters, suites, and whatnot. If they learned anything from this shutdown, it's that employee benefits are more important than ever. It means a hell of a lot to have an owner helping employees figure out how to apply for unemployment than independent contractors that aren't even sure if they're going to be able to get unemployment. You know, healthcare, paid time off, sick days, 401k, all the things that may, just give me the cash. I just want the cash. Benefits are going to be very, very highly valued moving forward, because a lot of people right now that had the rug pulled out from under them when they were forced to shut down, man, they wish they had something to fall back on. They wish they had an owner to look after them. They wish they had the proper records to show what income was. Man, come on, benefits. You can do this. We can provide healthcare benefits to employees. You can't if your payroll's big because all your money's going out in payroll, but you can structure your finances and your budgeting to be able to begin adding in benefits as you move along. Hey, guys, you want health insurance? We have to do X amount a month in sales and hold it there for 3 months. Because if we can do that, I'll be able to squeeze a new line item into our cash flow plan that says health insurance. Hit this number, you can have health insurance. It's how you understand the dynamics of cash in and cash out. Let's get to number 11. I think this is a really big thing that owners need to think about. What do you want your role to be when you reopen? If you've been a full-time service provider in your company, it's hard to lead. It's hard to get all the work done that being an owner requires. If you're working a couple days a week, doing services, fine, but does your role need to change when you reopen? Do you need to be the person out front that's greeting every client, setting the relationship in the right direction from the moment a client comes in? Maybe you should be the one doing consultations and assign the client to those employees that are best skill certified to deliver those services. There is a whole world of opportunity for owners to bring in a hell of a lot more money into their companies than what they do with their own two hands working behind the chair or in the treatment room. Think about what you want your role to be. Don't just go, we're going to open up and I'm going to have to just start banging away behind the chair in the treatment room, squeezing clients in, generating as much money as we can. That's not the way you want to play the game. You want to blow clients away with the level and quality of the service and the experience that you create. All right. Keep going backwards. Okay. Michael, see if you got some questions there for myself and Leslie. I want to show you guys this again. We had a little bit of trouble a week ago when we launched our 13-week cash recovery site. It's a very complicated site for you to be able to go in and create spreadsheets. We created this 13-week spreadsheet, and it's a really awesome tool to break your expenses down by the week. And the week that you know you're going to reopen, you could start projecting sales. There's a lot of flexibility in here. You can build as many spreadsheets as you want. Eric will post the link to the recovery plan site, and we even recorded a new video so you can learn how to use the site faster. Get in there and work the plan. Get in there, just follow the instructions and watch the video. Eric will post the link, and we're still offering 6 free ONLIVE training sessions. These are the recorded sessions that we've done over the last little over a year, 15 months. And it's a limited access. You apply, you're going to get a link. It'll tell you what to do from there. This is a great opportunity. You have the time to watch these videos. Let's get this done. And it's Q&A time. Unless I answered all the questions. I was excited. I waited all day to do this.
So I'll jump in here, Neil and Lexa. Well, if there are any questions, again, by all means, throw them in the chat. I think that the one thing that as I was, listening through today and even just kind of watching the chat in general was, I think today was a good day from the standpoint of these 11 questions are exactly that. These questions that we need to start to ask ourselves about when we now look to return. In a sense, we've kind of all gone through that. Not in a sense, we've all gone through this together. So we've all had to overcome the last 2 to 3 weeks of what loan should I apply for? How do I apply for these loans? What's this payroll protection program? What about SBA? And all this stuff is kind of swirled around us, unemployment and all these questions. Now it seems as though we've kind of got most of those questions answered. We at least have as much of a sense about that as we possibly can. Again, I know there's still plenty of questions about exactly what all this does look like, but I haven't heard or we haven't seen any real new information in the last couple days around most of this. So we're getting a greater sense of what payroll protection is going to look like. We don't know exactly when all this is going to start or things like that. But now it is time. We've kind of have, in a sense, we've done the work that we need to do on that side of it, at least what we can do. And now we're waiting for more clarity on how this is all going to pan out. But now is the time, as we think about now for sure, what we know is we've got through the end of this month and then might extend beyond that. But here's what we do know. At least in the next 3 to 4 weeks, these questions are really the relevant questions that we need to start to answer right now to start to say, and this is why this is, I think such good timing today, Neil, is the fact that you pose a lot of great questions today that start to say, what do I want to do to look different than what I was before? And you bring up a lot of great pieces from different angles and different areas that just start to say, okay, here's the stuff. Because I would say to anyone listening right now, whether you attach to any one question or multiple questions or whatnot, you really just have to look and say, the one thing we have to all ask ourselves is, how do I get stronger as a result? And in what areas can I strengthen my business? And these questions were great foundation setters for all of that to build stronger foundations on. So I'm going to go back into the chat now, Neil, real quick, see if anything has kind of come out of that that are direct questions, and I'll jump back in a second and let you know.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Neil, you talk. You're good, but I've got something.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead as I interrupt you.
Yeah, and you continue. I mean, this has just been a lifelong thing for us, right? No, I'm kidding. I think, I think my best advice to anyone out there that's struggling, and Neil, he touched on it today, but there's so much negative chatter about our industry and about what's happening and about if we can recover and can we do I'm telling you, I am telling you from someone that had $0 after 9/11, and we're trying to remortgage homes and figure out, just how we're going to funnel money, from Peter to Paul and, whatever. Don't listen to it. We will survive. We are going to be fine. Everyone's gonna need their haircut. I mean, today, what's his face? J-Lo's Chris Appleton is teaching Carson Daly how to cut his hair at his house. It looks terrible. But I mean, we are going to be fine. We have to get through this. Things that I will say: Zoom with your staff, work on your 2020 playbook. Things I would work on, because this is the biggest question I've been getting from other salon owners, is like, is why would I hire them back on and they're not doing anything? They're not doing any services. So I just kind of created a small list while we were on the phone, but I mean, have them work on open houses, your birthday party, your internal education, your systems, have them do online training, you know, have some of them come in and clean. I mean, the shelves are going to need to be cleaned. We haven't been there in a month or two, whatever it's going to be. You know, we need retail and inventory just redone, reset, everything looking good. Work on your skills, get the time standards down. And you know, and for that, it's like, oh, well, we can't have some, you know, I had actually a distributor tell me the other day that they couldn't do online training because they allowed to touch people. And I'm like, bad answer, really bad answer. So for me, I know my girls have mannequins at home. We can do things like this and they can, you know, do their foils. Okay, I did a full highlight in an hour and a half. All right, do it again, do it again, do it again. You know, and we can do all these kind of things so that when we reopen, we are ready, we are armed, and we can take the influx that I feel like we're going to have. I would also, owners out there that are listening to this, I would work on your next staff meeting. Like, what is your message going to be to staff? And I think, Neil, there's a lot of valuable content in what's coming in, you know, when they do these town halls. So go back through, and if you haven't been through all of them, there's so many different just quotes and one-liners and just things to think about. And so work on that staff meeting and figure out what's the message you're going to give your team. Because for me, we're going to go back in, you know, way before we open, maybe, I mean, I say way before, but a couple of days, we're going to get everyone's hair done so the staff looks great. We're going to have a staff meeting, and we're going to reset everything, literally reset everything. And then it's go time, because you know, whether it's going to be a trickle in or, you know, a flood, we're going to be ready. And so everyone prepare for whatever the time is. When we reopen, it's important work for all of us to do as owners right now. Sorry, soapbox over.
Nice job. My closing comment, which I think Michael's got some questions, but hang on a sec, Mike. My
Okay.
closing comment is you have this opportunity to bring your team back and reveal a new plan and a new way of doing business, and don't get hung up on the pay piece, meaning if your payroll's been too high, you need to reopen with a new pay system, and understand that you have this opportunity to introduce something new, as long as it's fair, as long as it's balanced, as long as you explain the why, what, when, and how of the pay change. You can make significant change in your business without hurting your people, without taking anything away. You know, maybe you're going to have to open up with fewer people, so fewer people being really busy. You have this chance to make the big decisions that I know so many owners, well, what if they leave? You know, if they've already left, they're on unemployment, they don't work for you anymore. Yeah. So you got to bring them back in, and bring them back into a future. That's the key piece here. Mikey, what do you got?
All right, so there's a few things that have kind of come up as some highlights. Again, you know, a lot of things are, I'm just going to put this out there. There's a lot of questions that are coming up around specific situations, like my situation or my situation. And so I'm trying to distill this into some kind of overall themes for everyone in this sense. So again, you know, there are a lot of specific questions. And honestly, what I would say is, you know, if you have specific questions, we at Strategies are still 100% doing complimentary calls. If you're not working in a membership, you know, we have a lot of resources out there for you to get information that is specific to you, and we're happy to do that. With that being said, let me give you a couple themes
Yeah,
out there.
we can't wait for this thing to be over so we can
Yeah,
go back to working a normal schedule.
right, exactly.
This is hell, man.
So with that in mind, let's go with this. It's one of the themes out there is this idea of, and this actually came out of, I did a video on Monday about just the concept of, as we think about rescheduling people back, and then that spawned a whole lot of questions. And I already know the next couple Mondays what my theme is going to be on, and it's resonates here. It's one of the things that came up was just around the idea of having a discussion about how we need to physically change our procedures upon return. Like, should service providers wear masks, and what might standards be going forward? Should we limit the number of people in our businesses? So there's a lot of questions out there like that. I think I'll offer a couple thoughts from my perspective, and Neil then, and Leslie, if you got some things to add into this, especially Leslie, as you have to reconsider these as a business owner, especially. You know, these are all questions that some of this could be somewhat mandated. I mean, we could have some things that come down. Certainly, I could very easily see in the next few weeks that businesses might be able to reopen. Let's just say, again, let's keep this early May in our mind, is because that's kind of what we're hearing as a consensus right now. Might get pushed back, but we'll cross that bridge when we need to. But upon reopening, I could very easily see there being some guidelines that say that, you know, now we encourage masks, or we encourage this, we encourage that. I think one of the most powerful things that you guys can be doing right now, and this is part of what I think even came out of the comments that I saw from the video I did on Monday, was if we have to incur social distancing within our business, that's where that 13-week cash flow plan can really come in and help you guys answer that question. As a matter of fact, and I'll just let you know, that was going to be my topic for this coming Monday. I'm still going to do it because I want to show you in that video how we need to be looking at that 13-week cash flow plan to plan for something that might be, or you just might feel that's the way you want to handle your business. Because social distancing, what's the impact on their company? That's where that cash flow plan can come in so well, because you can set up and say, all right, I'm going to project what my hours to sale are going to be based upon the fact that I'm going to practice social distancing to make sure that everyone feels comfortable when they come into our business upon time of return. That might be something that you need to consider, or it might be something we all are going to need to consider, because that's going to be some of the rules as to how we can get back to work. So that 13-week plan allows you to say, what's the hours I have available for sale in a reduced schedule, because I have to allow for that, and what impact and what's that going to look like for my business. So there's some of that aspect out there. So what might some of this return look like? Another thing that comes up, and again, we can kind of have a little bit more discussion around all this, Neil, your thoughts on some of this, and Leslie as well, from what I just said, along with, you know, this idea of returning. The question is centered around, how do we feel about having team members call clients to reschedule them? Should that be something that we're doing as a business, or should we have individual people doing that, or there's service providers doing that? You know, what do we think about that whole rescheduling piece? Is it our job, or is it their job? And how are we going to make the clients feel special around this? You know, I think that the one thing, and again, Leslie, might be a great question for you as well, and how you guys are handling it in your company. The point I wanted to bring up, as we talked about this even on Sunday, or excuse me, on my Monday video, was just the idea that the first thing you need to make sure is that you establish clarity on how you are going to handle a return to business, and make sure that everyone, that your clients, again, now is not the time to go dark on your customer and your client, because they need to know what to expect for their return visit as you prepare to get back to work. And that's a really, you know, a powerful thing. And what's the best way to handle that? Personally, I'm in favor of the fact that we want to handle this as a business, right? We want to handle this as a business because this is how we can grow the fact that there's confidence in our companies. And so I'm going to kind of look at it from a standpoint of what strengthens our business, what strengthens our message to our client as a company and our culture and our brand that we are as a complete unit. Now, for some, that may mean they strengthen that through having multiple people reaching out and rescheduling. Others, it might be one specific touch point, so there's a couple different ways that could also be looked at as well. So I'll kind of stop. There's kind of a few things put out there. I'm going to go back to the chat and see what else might have come up. But Leslie, Neil, if you've got thoughts on any of that kind of return aspect that I kind of was just discussing.
Yeah, I mean, I do. And I mean, Neil, I mean, you can go if you want.
All of that remains to be seen. I think the logic dictates that there's going to be some very strict rules that we're going to have to adhere to. Clients are going to have to feel extraordinarily safe coming into your business, and there's probably going to be some social distancing that'll be mandated in salons. So it may be every other chair, or just expect rules to come and be prepared. I think that's the safest thing. But that's where that 13-week, as Michael was saying, the 13-week recovery plan spreadsheet comes in. What if you can't bring everybody back? What if you can't get every client in that wants to come in? It's going to have to be measured ramp up once the okay is given to reopen. I think if you're thinking it's going to be woohoo, back to business, it's just not going to happen.
There's no way. There's no way it's going to happen. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. No, I some things that, again, if any of my team's on here, hi, welcome to the news briefing. But yeah, we've really thought about, how to reopen, because right now all we're doing is social media, email connection with our customers. And then of course, those that have phone numbers, connecting. But for me, it's more of, okay, I've got 6 front desk people. These are the hours they did work. What hours could they really work? Because you got to have front desk to operate a team, at least at our size. And then you've got, we have 18 stylists right now, and they are packed in. I mean, and so, yeah, what if we can only do every other chair? And so then what does that look like? And so now is the time to start questioning who can work really what hours. And what I've, a lot of my stylists that were working, we do a very flexible schedule with kids and whatnot, and they work their, 9 to 2 or whatever. And we've been very flexible, but it's like, what can you really work? And do we need to open on Sundays? We're open 6 days a week right now, but what do we do to accommodate the clients? What do we do to make sure that everybody can continue to get paid what they did, at least here in the beginning, because we don't know. And then I had one stylist today, she said, well, I put the mask on and I suffocate, like it's so claustrophobic. So I don't even know if she could work if she had to wear the mask. And but you've got questions from your team and see what they can work, and then start building a schedule and go from there. And it's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts, but again, we have been given this time, given this precious time.
We've been given time.
We've been given time to work on this kind of thing. And so we at least have a couple more weeks or 3 more weeks, whatever it is. But, for any owner out there, this is what I would advise them to be working on and start figuring out. So you don't have the questions come May 1st. Well, I didn't know you couldn't work then, or I didn't know that you were, so it's a lot. Is all I can say.
All right, Michael, any parting words, and we'll bring Eric back
Yeah,
on.
I was going to say, I think that last thing I would say is I love the chat. And again, just a shout out to all of our coaches and educators that have been in there answering tons of questions. You know, we appreciate that. You know, as we even said, you know, a lot of these things that are coming up, you have to start to think about some difference. And I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts here. You do, and we probably are all going to have to consider the idea that our businesses are going to need to look different, especially early on, whether that might mean potential mask or social distancing. But I love some of the things I went back and started to see. This idea that some people are talking about the fact that, well, we might have to consider split shifts and do 7 days a week early on. That might be a great idea. Maybe it's just a matter of extending hours that our business is open to allow for that social distancing, but accommodate clients that wanted. So there's all kind of thinking out there that we need to start to kind of wrestle with. And I think Neil said it perfectly. Right now, we have a lot more questions than we do answers around all of this. Time will start to kind of reveal to us how this life is going to look and what return to business is going to look like. But I love the conversation. Again, we're going to continue to be here for you guys when it comes to support and giving you as much education as we can, especially as we start to see what a return really looks like. And that's my last thing I'll say, is that's what I loved about today, was 11 questions we all need to start to ask ourselves to get better upon return. And these are the perfect questions to start with, and then we'll keep building from this point. So Neil, what do you got?
When it comes to your clients, they can be very demanding. We know many clients have been saying, can't you just come into my house? Can't you sneak me into the salon? Just crazy things like that. I came up with one line. I like it because I came up with it. You can borrow it if you want. No one ever died of regrowth and long hair. So educate your clients. Stop watching all the videos on how to do their own hair, because yes, it'll give you more work to fix, but you can't do the work until we're given the okay that it is now safe to begin working on clients again and doing it in a sanitized, safe manner. All right, I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Eric Dukoff here. Once again, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you guys get as much out of these weekly town halls we've been doing as we enjoy them. We certainly welcome your feedback. I would imagine we're going to do this again next Wednesday, so keep an eye out for an announcement there. Don't forget, we put 3 really valuable free resources in the links in the comments down below. So there's one for the 13-week cash flow plan recovery plan. You get signed up in there. It's really important that you guys read the email that you get, as well as the tutorial video after you log in to know how to use it. It's not an incredibly intuitive site until you watch the instructions. So once you do that, you'll be on your way. So make sure you do that. There's also a link for access to replays of 6 of our most popular ONLIVE trainings that we've done. Those are full-day online workshops that we do. We do one every month. We picked our 6 most popular topics. You guys have free access to those now until April 30th. So do some binge watching and get yourself and your team fine-tuned on the systems that you need. So when you hit the ground running, when you reopen, you've got some new skills. It's totally free. It's about $1,700 worth of free training. Our gift to you guys, but you got to use it before April 30th. So get in there and do that. The link is below. And then finally, as we mentioned, if you want to set up a time to talk to one of our coaches, there is a link below to sign up for a free strategy session. You just got to make sure you can get a time slot. I know they are a little limited right now, but certainly get in there and do that. But with that said, we really appreciate you guys being here with us. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. We appreciate it. Neil, Michael, thank you as always. And get into our Salon Spa Business Idea Exchange group. We share a lot of stuff there. With that said, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.